G'day everyone, welcome to the How to Halo Reach ODST web series. This is of course tutorial part 2. My name's Andrew DFT, and in this tutorial of course we're going to be targeting the chest, building up this big section where you can then go ahead and add all the individual extra pieces that you want, whether that be on your own time or from the tutorials in my ebook. So by the end of the video you should be able to make this here. This is just a very basic centerpiece that will of course have a whole bunch of additional pieces added to it to make it more detailed, but at its core it is a very simple and easy to make armor piece. Nearly forgot what I was about to say there. Now I will rate this tutorial about a 4 out of 10. It is somewhat a bit more difficult to do than the helmet was because it is a bit larger and it will have to be customized to your own body type. But no matter how tall or wide you may be, it shouldn't be a problem for this chest piece. This should be able to fit pretty snug, allowing you some kind of room to move and get in and out of quite easily. But enough about that, let's just jump straight in and get making it. Alright, so to kick things off, go and print out the 4 templates, the 4 A4 sheets that you'll be needing for this tutorial. Then we can go cut them out and make sure they're all nice and clean, and then we can actually tape these things together. Just use masking tape, whatever you have, nothing special, just basic tape. Make sure you tape the correct sides to the other correct side. You don't want to have it mixed up. Once you've done that, go ahead and transfer it onto the EVA foam, making sure you are swapping the template over so we're getting both sides onto that foam. Once that's done, make sure you've done the front and the back in the same style, because we are going to be needing to use both of these pretty much at the same time. Then we can go ahead using our nice sharp craft knife and cut the foam out. So we should have 2 slabs, both the front and the back. Then you give it a nice heat up with the heat gun, and then you can start morphing it over your body. You want to give it this kind of like chest plate effect so that it kind of bends in 3 ways over all the angles. You don't need it to be that extreme because it will bend once we go ahead and start forming it together. So once you have both of them kind of bent in that kind of 3D total shell effect, we can start gluing the seams. We're going to start off with the shoulder parts. Don't worry about trying to get it to fit at this point, we just need to get them glued together. So just glue one of them and then of course go and do the second. They should seal up pretty nicely, and don't try to rip it apart too early, wait for it to properly set before we go forward. Okay, so once you think it's hard enough, put it on. See if it actually fits through your head. If it does, awesome. We won't do anything, but if it doesn't, quickly follow these exact steps. What you're going to quickly do is get the template and you're going to bring out the neck area to make it fit, of course. You want to do it slowly, so go maybe ½ an inch on both sides using the template. All we're doing is drawing the extra width to what we already have. So eventually we will of course cut these away if of course your head doesn't fit. But this should fix it. If it still doesn't after ½ an inch, go another inch. You don't want to take it too far, so if after an inch it doesn't go, you're just going to have to thrust your head through somewhat, because if you go too much further we'll start to impede on the actual design itself. Moving on, now we can glue the other seams, which will of course wrap around under the lower rib cage. So go ahead and glue both of those together. They should seal up quite nicely. Once it's set and nice and hard and won't rip apart, we can start working on all the other designs. So grab the back template. We'll start off with the back and work our way forward. We're going to cut out this kind of like, I don't know what you call it, this kind of triangle-ish looking design. Once that's cut out, we're going to use the template to mark out where exactly that negative space is, and make sure you do that on both sides, because we're now going to start working on creating this layer effect and also allow the armor to kind of wrap around your body a bit better. So once you've marked out that negative space, go ahead and actually cut it out with a nice sharp blade. So now once it's all out, we should have these 2 sections. Now the negative point you did cut out, we're not actually going to use. We're going to need to draw a brand new template, which is a bit bigger than the one we just obviously pulled out. So you're going to do 2 templates, trace them on, but what we're going to do is we're going to leave an inch in between. Then you can seal those inches up, or the inch up of course. So pretty much this is the exact same design, it's just an inch longer. That's going to pretty much make the design work when we glue it together, because of course we took a negative piece out, but now we're going to have to put it back in, but we want that extra space to allow it to kind of hold on with the glue. Then you can go and rule out straight in the middle a nice vertical line, get it pretty much dead on if you can, then we can start beveling it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to score halfway through the foam and then come in on an angle, so 45 degrees in from both sides. This is going to allow us to bend it in on a nice kind of like curve, and it will give this nice fresh line. Now note that even though I was cutting into the foam, it wasn't going all the way through, hence why you can't see it coming out the other side. Once you've done that, go ahead and heat it up. Not too much, just enough that it'll allow you to bend like so, and it'll give us that nice kind of perforation or that line coming through. A nice edge, nice crisp edge. Once we've done that, of course, grab some hot glue and we're going to glue this into place. This is going to bring the whole torso area and wrap it in. So this is what's going to really allow it to look a lot better on your design. Once that's all set, by all means chuck it on. Make sure it fits. It should just slide over and fit on perfectly. Now with the adjustments, you should have enough space between you and the armor, so let's move on. So let's start working on the extra layers that will build up the nice detail in the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab the front templates and we're going to cut out the side little panels that you can see there. What we're going to do is grab that, put it on some foam, trace it out like we've done with all the other pieces so far. Once we've traced it out, we're going to then, of course, throw it under the heat gun. That way we can bend it how we wish. Now a good way to figure out how much you need to bend this by is you can actually put it straight onto the armor piece where it will actually go in the end, and it will give you an idea of how much you need to bend it to make it fit flush in the end. Once you've done that, what we're going to do is grab the template which you just used, and we're going to cut along the actual lines so we have it in two pieces like this. What we're then going to do is grab the piece you can see on screen and trace the outline onto the piece of foam. The reason we're doing this is we're going to actually cut these two pieces of foam in half, and we're going to create a nice unique design to make this whole thing look a bit more 3D. So once we've cut those two pieces out, then we can then grab the template and we're going to cut along that kind of like etched line you can see. This is a fold line in the templates. So what we can do is we can then flip over the template and the piece of foam and draw the line in place where it should go. Once you've done that, grab a nice sharp blade and we're going to cut into the foam, not all the way through, just cutting in like we did previously and come back in on a 45-degree angle. This of course is going to allow us to have that really nice kind of edge without going all the way through the foam. Once you've done that, of course, glue it together and it should hold its position with that nice edge. What we're going to do again is, you can see on the template we have another little kind of like dotted line that indicates, of course, we've got another little edge, and we're going to do it on that bottom piece. Once you've done both of those bottom pieces, we're all good to go ahead and glue them together. But when you are gluing them together, you want to make sure you've got this nice kind of lip, a nice little terraced effect. It just gives it a bit more of a 3D design in overall. Moving on, now we're going to do pretty much the same process we just did, but on the back section. So what we're going to do is grab the template and cut out pretty much the equivalent to what the front piece was, and then we're going to go through the steps again. Transfer it to the foam as normal, grab that foam and then cut it out so the template should be as it is. And what you're going to do though is, unlike on the previous, what we're going to quickly do is we're going to carve a bevel into one of the edges. This is just going to allow it to kind of sit right when we kind of like connect the two seams together. If you left it as it was, it wouldn't sit very well. This is going to close the seams when we wrap it around the foam and sit there perfectly. Once that's all good to go, glue it into position and you're away. So now we're going to start working on the top shoulder braces. This is going to add a lot more thickness to the costume and make it look a bit more decent. So what we're going to do is grab the two, or cut out the two templates I should say, and then line them up as I've got on screen. Make sure they are this way. They should be coming into an oval. Leave an inch in between the two templates when you draw it out. This is going to take into account the thickness of the foam that we're having to fold it over. Once you've done that, trace it out completely and then go ahead and cut it out with just a nice sharp blade. Try using a nice sharp blade when you're doing this, because of course you're going to see this at all times no matter where you are posing or what kind of a position you're posing in for a photo shoot. So do try your best to make sure it's got the nice clean edges. Once you've heated it up, something significant, because it does have to bend quite a distance, you can start lining it up into place like I'm showing you on screen. Those kind of like edges should just sit on top of each other and then it should fold over the front as so. Once it's all sitting nice, just go ahead and glue it into place. Nothing too significant, just take your time when you're wrapping it over the shoulder piece. Here you can see the both front and the back sitting nicely with both of them in place. Okay, so we're going to start working on the final parts of this design. This is where we're going to start drawing all the lines in and really making it look nice. So cut out this kind of like, get the template that we initially had and start to trace out the design where it should be, as pretty much I'm showing you on screen. Once you've done that, then you can score the lines. You're not cutting all the way through, you're just kind of cutting through the surface. Very sharp blade here because you want this to be as pristine as possible. Follow the lines as I'm doing on screen, just scoring it. Once you've gone and done all the scoring, you can then take a heat gun to it. Being very careful when you're using the heat gun because you don't want to melt all the glued edges that we have for the seams. But what it will do is it will really bring out those scored lines and make them a bit more thick, so that way it looks a bit more impressive. Now what we're going to do is pretty much use the designs that you had initially and look at them and see where all the other scored lines are on this costume in general. So obviously we've got one here on the side panel and one, or a few, in the centerpiece. So make sure you draw those up, whether that's freehand or just using the templates. Get them on there as symmetrical as possible. As well, we've also got a few up here on the shoulder pauldron, kind of like banner thingies, well, I can't remember what you call them. But make sure you get those in nicely and do try and keep the symmetry there. But once you've done all those, that's pretty much it, done and dusted. So that's it. Not too difficult, just a few things you will have to kind of figure out yourselves, which is the neck size, of course, how wide your neck hole needs to be to allow your head to get through, and of course, if you can't fit into it perfectly, for those who do have a bit of a wider side, you can actually just slice this seam in half and actually have it loose, so that way you can just slide in and out, no problem. The only reason I have it intact is because I like to have everything sturdy, so when I mount extra things on top, it's not going to wobble around too much. But that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Of course, I'll see you in part 3 when we go ahead and build on the chest plate to this. Of course, it's going to fill up this blank area because right now it's kind of bare. You don't really want to run into combat with nothing sitting there. So we'll target that in episode 3. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you later.